An atheist might come back and say, look, this is the best method that we have to study the world. And do you agree that this is the best method that we do have, science? And so we should only use science to try and come to an understanding of the world.
So it's a very deep question, believe it or not. Yeah, it's a really deep question. The reason why it's a deep question is because when people turn around and say science is the best way to study the world, it presupposes that science is, one, true, and secondly, is it presupposes that the world follows through a patterned, ordered process. Yeah. Otherwise, science doesn't work. My presuppositions about science and the scientific methodology will not work unless I assume patterns that operate within the universe. Yeah. There was a famous philosopher. His name was David Hume, and he looked at the issue of empiricism, and he was an empiricist. He only believed in empirical truths, but he said empirical truths cannot prove causal relationships. Yeah. So maybe to explain or through an example what he means by this, he's saying, look, if we wanted to determine the boiling, he didn't say this, but I'm giving this as an example that he would to understand what David Hume is saying. He said, if we were to look at the boiling point of water and we wanted to say what is the boiling point of water, what temperature is it, and so we construct an experiment. We put a flame, a heat below a certain amount of water. We have a thermometer in the water, and we record the temperature. Yeah. Now, I know in America you use Fahrenheit. You don't use Celsius, do you?
Yeah.
Fahrenheit doesn't make any sense to me. So we say obviously you do the experiment and you notice that it boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Yeah. So it boils at 100 degrees Celsius. So I say, okay, right, it boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Excellent. So now we can say, and we might repeat it, yeah, just to make sure that it's not a strange result. So we repeat it about 5 times. Then we will say, okay, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Now, what Hume said effectively is that that's built upon a number of assumptions. Yeah. The first assumption is our past experience can explain future observations. Yeah. So this is really important. We need to sort of think about this, that we boil the water, so we record it at 100 degrees Celsius. Then when we say water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, it means that in future, it will follow that past event. And he says there's nothing to say that future events should follow past experience. That's an assumption. Yeah. Now, a lot of people find this really hard to appreciate and understand because we're so used to assuming these things that we think it's just intuitive and it's natural. And it is part of the rational method to assume and, understand causality. But from an empirical point of view, you're assuming that universe is ordered. It's got patterns. Future events follow from past experiences, that these are set. Yeah, these are going to occur whether you're in planet Earth or in another planet in another part of the universe. So long as the atmospheric pressure is the same, water will boil at the same temperature. Yeah. So long as the conditions and the variables remain the same, it will have the same boiling point. So anywhere in the universe, this is an assumption. The universe could be chaotic. Yeah. The universe could be completely random. Didn't have to follow any patterns whatsoever. Yeah. So you have to assume patterns and behavior. And obviously from our understanding of the Quran, we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has imposed the laws within the universe. Yeah. These are our suppositions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed within the universe. Laws set certain things, the sunnah of Allah, the wasila, the means by which we operate within the universe, has been set and been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, we can now discover these patterns. Yeah. But that required information. When from a empirical point of view, you can't assume that. Yeah. I don't know if that's clear, because it is a deep question, and there are some deep points you have to really think about.
It's actually, you made it very simple.
Alhamdulillah.
The uniformity is an assumption. To think that there is a uniformity in the universe is an assumption that you have to first have in order to do science.
That's number one. And second is that future events will follow past experiences.
Yes.
The third one is that you have to have causality, that there will be a causal relationship. These are the assumptions that science has to assume, the methodology of science has to assume before you engage in science. Yeah. So this idea that, science is the only way to truth and all these points that they raise, they don't realize that they're assuming certain premises already, assumption. And I had the debate a few years ago in London with a professor in philosophy, and he was a professor, and it was like 2 versus 2 debate. We had one debate. It was like 2 debates in one event. One debate was on belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in the same debate, the other speaker from the Muslim was criticizing liberalism and secularism. Yeah, and so one of the atheists was arguing for the belief in Allah, and the other atheist was arguing for secularism. So we had to break for Salat al-Asr because there's Maghrib. I think it was Salat al-Maghrib because it was just the timings was the case. So as we were breaking, one of the atheist professors, he came to me and he goes, "You're wrong." This is what he said. He goes, "You're wrong. Science does not assume causality." Yeah. He goes, "Where are you getting this from?" Yeah. And he goes, "I teach this at university." Yeah. So he goes, "I teach this at university." So I gave him an example, and it's a bit of a scientific example, but it was an example about the rotation of stars in nebulas, yeah, or in galaxies. So stars will orbit a central mass, normally what they call a black hole, supermassive black hole, yeah. And what they found is that the orbiting of stars nearer to the black hole was orbiting at the same speed as those that were further out of the from the black hole. Now, from the law and the theory of gravity, yeah, that is impossible, because those that are on the further edges of the galaxy, if their orbit, their speed is the same as the ones closer to the central mass, which is causing the gravitational pull and therefore the orbit, they would be thrown out of the galaxy. Yeah. And so when they observed this is what I was explaining to them. I said, when they observed this, they didn't say we need to change the theory of gravity. They said there must be a cause for gravity here. Yeah. And then they came up with this idea, what's called dark matter. So this is where this concept of dark matter comes in, that most of the universe is made up of these dark matters, neutrinos, I think they call them, dark matter, which has gravity and therefore allows the preservation of the theory of gravity to exist as we know. So I said, look, they assumed from the observation, they assumed there must be a cause. They just don't know what the cause is. Yeah, because they're seeing an effect and there must be a cause. And it was like it was in between the actual debate. And so he went and he just went quiet and he goes, like just sort of looked at me. So he didn't really know what to say regards to that.
Yeah. A lot of the argument for, I think, a lot of the argument for those who argue this kind of case, that science is the what leads us to truth, I think one of the things that they do use is the successes of the last 50 to 60 years. And they say that, look at all of the successes. We are going to the moon now. You're using cell phone to communicate with people all the way on the other side of the world. Science is successful because science works, therefore it must be true.